All right, let's dive right in. Today, we're exploring a worldview from our source material that is, well, it's a wild ride. It's a framework for reality, purpose, and power that seriously challenges just about everything you might think you know. So, let's get into it.
So, the whole thing really kicks off with this one core idea. Being human is way more than just flesh and blood. The source material claims that every single one of us has this hidden power, almost like a spiritual technology that's been buried and forgotten. The big questions are, how did we forget? And what exactly is this power?
So, the first step, according to this framework, is to basically tear down a concept that's fundamental to a lot of spiritual thinking: karma. To really get what's going on, we first have to see through what the source straight up calls a con game. And yet, they do not pull any punches here. The conventional idea of karma, that personal spiritual balance sheet of good deeds and bad deeds you carry around, this source says, nope, forget it, it's not real. Instead, it's presented as a control mechanism, a lot like the concept of sin, that's designed to make you feel guilty and ashamed, keeping you trapped in a cycle where you think you're always paying off some debt. Okay, so if individual karma is a sham, then what's the deal? Well, the source puts forward this idea of soul family karma. The idea is we aren't just these isolated little units bouncing around. We're part of a bigger team, a collective, all connected energetically across time. So those weird past life memories some people have, the source says those aren't your memories. It's more like energetic bleed through. You're picking up a signal from someone else in your soul family. It's a shared experience, not a lonely prison sentence. So let's keep building on this, because if individual karma is a control system, it kind of begs the question, right? Who's doing the controlling? And why? This is where this whole model takes a much, much darker turn. The source introduces what it calls the great parasite. Now, don't think of some kind of creature. It's more like a vast predatory consciousness, almost like a cosmic computer virus that's infected our entire reality. And in this view, this entity has set up our world to be a kind of farm. A farm designed for one thing and one thing only: to harvest our energy. Now this might be the most jarring part of this whole thing. According to the source, the very tool you use to reason, to think, to figure things out, your mind, isn't actually yours. It's a borrowed operating system, an OS that was installed by this parasite, and it's designed not to free you, but to keep you confused and under control. I mean, think about that. The very tool you'd use to escape the prison is actually part of the prison walls. So why the farm? What's being harvested? The source says we're supposed to be these incredibly powerful energetic beings with auras like great wings. This life force energy, which is called loosh, is the raw material we're meant to use to build a soul for ourselves. But the system, through war, fear, endless distraction, feeds on this energy. It siphons it off, leaving us with just enough to get by. That feeling of being drained, sick, powerless, it's not just in your head. According to this, it's by design. We're running on empty. So, if our own minds are a trap, how in the world could anyone possibly get out? Well, the source material argues the path isn't about thinking harder. It's about a complete shift in how we exist. The path is laid out in 3 stages. First, you have epistemology. That's trying to figure it all out with your intellect. Since your mind is using the borrowed OS, that's a total dead end. The key is to move to ontology, which is all about being and feeling. This is how you get to something called gnosis, a direct, felt truth. It's the difference between reading about what an apple tastes like and actually taking a bite. And once you start embodying that real energy, your true purpose, your teleology, becomes crystal clear. It's not about fixing the farm. It's about figuring out how to leave. And that brings us right to the end game, the actual mission. And it's not framed as some journey of self-improvement. It's framed as a radical act of escape. The source makes a really sharp distinction here. You know the traditional hero's journey? It's described as prosaic. It's a loop. You go out, learn something, come back. But you always come back. You don't actually change the system. The ultimate hero's journey, though, is a one-way street. It's a radical act. It's not about making the farm a better place. It's about amassing enough personal power to bust out of it for good. And this is absolutely crucial. In this view, we are not born with a soul. That's a huge misconception. The entire reason we're here in this spiritual dojo of hard knocks is to actually forge one. Life, with all its pain and joy and struggle, is the fire. It's the alchemical crucible where we do the work of creating a soul. So, how do you even start to build that power? The Source gives a practical technique. It's called recapitulation. It's a way to reclaim all the energy you've lost in past experiences. Basically, you focus on a memory that still has an emotional charge. As you breathe in, you visualize pulling your own lost energy back into you, seeing it as bright and colorful. Then, as you breathe out, you expel any energy you picked up that isn't yours, seeing it leave you as dull, black and white static. And what's the end game of doing practices like this over and over? It's to build up and condense all that reclaimed energy into what the old alchemists called the Philosopher's Stone. It's not a literal rock, of course. It's a dense internal power pack. It's your personal energy reserve. It's the fuel for the jetpack you're going to use to finally get out of the matrix. And that leaves us with the final, ultimate question posed by this entire worldview. As you build up all this power, the temptation to use it inside the system would be huge, right? To get rich, to change the world, to perform miracles. But according to the Source, the real test, the final choice, is to save all that power for one thing, your exit. To have the ability to do anything, but to choose to leave instead. So what would you do?